Hey, what's going on, friend? Juan Pablo here from 100% Finance, and today we're going to go over step 3 of a 4-step process in acquiring a cash flowing multi-unit property. Step 3 is all about due diligence with an emphasis on the deal criteria for multi-unit properties. All right, cool. So let me share with you some of the details of our 4-step process. So you might have heard some of our other YouTube videos. Step 1 is all about show me the money. It's find the money, baby. That relates to the mortgage, the down payment, out-of-pocket costs, things like that. So soft costs, closing costs, and so forth. You've probably seen on our other videos. Step 2 is where you find the deal. You want to make sure you find the deal in a right market. And you want to find a multi-unit deal because you'll be able to get the financial freedom so much faster, right? Because it just makes sense. Would you rather spend 5 months acquiring a single family property or that same 5 months acquiring a 10-unit property? What's the difference? Just a zero, baby. But the process is still the same. It's all about maximizing your time, right? Now let's not go off on a tangent, let's continue. Phase 3, which we're talking about today, is performing due diligence. So you want to make sure when you get this cash flowing multi-unit property under contract that all the numbers on the listing match up to your criteria. It's important. It's time to switch hats, so to speak, from being an investor to an investigator. Okay, so we're going to focus on that today. In step 4, which is my favorite, the close. That's when you go to the closing table in person. I like to do it in person because I like to shake hands, rub elbows, and see who's there, say what's up, get some contact information because they may have deals for me later, right? The other agents that are in the closing room. But I also like to close remote as well. Being an online entrepreneur, it's just easy, it's sweet. And you can do it too, right? Independent of what's going on in today's time and age, you can close deals remotely. All right, so without further ado, I know I tend to go off on tangents, so let me stay on track. Let's get into the topic. So let's say you found a cash flowing deal, right? You got in a contract, and it's time to start verifying some things to make sure that it matches up your criteria. But you gotta be mindful of the 3 criteria. And these are my 3 criteria in order of importance, by the way, when acquiring a cash flowing multi-unit property. First criteria, it has to cash flow. Meaning the gross rents that you receive, whether that's from the tenants, that's called rent from the leases and so forth. Also laundry, coin laundry. I have coin laundry machines, so I also make additional capital or additional revenue, I should say, from that as well, additional income. So that's great. So it's your total income minus your OpEx, that's your operating expenses, property taxes, insurance, property management if you choose not to manage the property yourself, utilities if the owner has to pay for the water, and so forth, okay? So gross revenue minus operating expenses minus your debt service. Debt service is debt that you borrow to service this property, right? To acquire this property, in other words. So this is your mortgage payment. Business credit card payment if you're using business credit, which we offer, by the way. Check out our resources at 100%finance.com. Or also debt service can be you having an equity partner or private money. You have to pay other people who help you bring the money to the closing table. You got it? Cool. So, and the last part is reserves. And that's the #1 mistake I see beginner investors make. Man, that rhymed. That's kind of dope. But they pretty much don't factor in reserves. You gotta have reserves for vacancies and maintenance. Occasionally, toilets will break. Occasionally, tenants don't pay. Occasionally you might have to evict them. That's just how it is. You gotta accept it, right? So the gross rents, the gross revenue, minus your operating expenses, minus debt service, minus your reserves equals cash flow. It has to cash flow. So Juan, what are your criteria for cash flowing? Great question. Well, it just depends, right, on the market I'm investing in. But my personal criteria, if you're asking, I like to get about $100 per unit in cash flow. Because I'm using 100% financing, right? So if I'm using a lot of debt, right, a lot of debt service, that's going to eat up some of the cash flow. So you have to keep that in mind, my friend. So if you're financing a deal, using little to no money out of your pocket, and you're getting $100 a month of cash flow, then by all means, do that day in and day out. Wash, rinse, and repeat that bad boy. That's what I like to do. Now, I had a client one time, he got a 14 unit, and he was cash flowing $1,100 a month, and he was financing it 100%. And he said, you know what, Juan, I know you guys are coaching me and so forth, and I'm about to close on this deal, but I'm having reservations. And I said, well, why is that? What's holding you back? And he said, well, it doesn't meet the criteria. It's not $100 per unit. And I said, hey, you gotta listen. For one, you're not coming out with the cash out of pocket, right? Your return on this investment is infinite, right? Being that you're using 100% financing. And I'm like, and secondly, unless there were better options out there, meaning more cash flowing deals, then by all means, find another deal. But being that this is the most cash flowing property that fits your pockets, meaning the amount of money you bring to closing, then do it. So that brings me to my second criteria, which is the cash on cash return, right? So I'm huge on using 100% financing, as I just shared with you, right? So my cash on cash return in that scenario means it's infinite, right? It's math, I love math. Math is this: if anything, if anything's over a zero, meaning zero in the denominator, it's always gonna be indefinite, right? So if you're receiving cash flow, this is how you calculate your cash on cash return. It's the yearly cash flow divided by the amount of money that you personally put in out of pocket. So if you raise the capital, the financing 100%, then you put zero out of pocket. You follow? So if you have $1,100 times 12 months, let's say in that scenario, that would be his yearly cash flow divided by zero, his return is infinite. So that's what my aim is. However, that doesn't mean that I do not invest in real estate, more particular multi-units, using my own capital, my savings. I do, right? My goal is to acquire cash flowing properties, right? So I can get it quicker and easier if I use leverage, other people's money, whether it's business credit, private money, seller financing, mortgages, and the like. But if I did a good job saving money, right, from other means, because it's important, my friend, to have multiple streams of income. So if I did a good job doing that, then why not use my own cash and get a higher return? So here's the question. Hey Juan, so what return do you aim for? Great question. I like to aim for a return for 8% cash on cash return or higher. So you got that so far? First criteria, cash flow $100 a month. Will I settle for less? Yeah, why not? Me personally, I bought a 9-unit and I was cash flowing $88 a door. Hey, that was the last 9-unit I needed to quit my 9 to 5, to quit my day job, to say peace out and turn in my 2 weeks notice to my boss. I was willing to make that compromise. Second criteria, cash on cash return, 8% or higher. I can use creative financing, or I can finance this deal 100%, or I can use my savings. At the end of the day, I'm getting whatever capital I can get my hands on, whether it's my personal capital or someone else's, to acquire multi-unit properties. Now the third criteria, value add opportunity. Meaning, when you get a cash flowing multi-unit under contract, you want to make sure that you're able to add value. And you can add value 3 ways. Buy less than what it's worth. That's called built-in equity, my friend. You should always do that. As a real estate investor, you should always buy a cash flowing rental property, especially multi-units, at a discount. You should never pay what the property is worth or above what the property is worth. And I almost did that one time until I had a mentor guide me and say, now, I get it, Juan, you want to quit your 9 to 5. So this is one of the last deals you need to quit your 9 to 5, right? I said, yeah, you got it. He said, okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're being motivated by emotion and not by logic. Logic would tell you you should not buy a property more than what it's worth. You got the appraisal, you know how much you're putting on the contract for, you're buying it, you're not buying it with built-in equity. So that means to me, Juan, that you're actually buying this property based upon emotion because you want to quit your job. I'm sure you might have had these dreams of grandeur, standing up with the couches, celebrate, party in the club, turning up with your friends. But no, you have to make the smart decision. So make sure you do that, guys. Always use your logic. You buy properties based upon the numbers, not the emotion. You got it? Good, good. So that was a good tangent, but let's keep it rolling. So yes, you want to buy a property less than what it's worth. And another way to add value add is by forcing appreciation. How you manage the property. Do rents increases and curb your expenses by how you manage it. And third, buy a property in a positive appreciated market. So those are my 3 criteria. So when you have a multi-unit property under contract and it's time to perform the due diligence, you want to make sure you verify the revenue and expenses and the value of the property to make sure that it lines up with that 3 criteria. Now, if it doesn't, then that's when you go back to the negotiating table and talk to the seller to see how you guys can make some good compromises to your favor, being that it didn't add up to begin with, right? Now, this is one thing I want to share with you, right? When acquiring a multi-unit property or performing the due diligence of a multi-unit property, getting tongue-tied here, or performing the due diligence of a property, I need Toastmasters again, right? The important thing is this: you want to make sure that you have realistic expectations. I've coached many clients in the past, many clients in our programs, real estate programs, and they may have, let's say, $30,000 to invest, which is a decent amount of capital, but they want to get a 20 unit. And the average cost per unit in their market is $100,000. So do the math. What's 20 units times 100,000? Do you think that they can actually get, with that 30,000 down payment, 30,000 amount of capital they have access to, can afford a 20% down payment on that property? No. It doesn't add up. It's not realistic. It's unrealistic. Secondly, they may want the highest cash flow possible, meaning, you know what, I want to get a cash flow of $1,000 per unit. Well, you possibly can, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is impossible. But if you are using 100% financing, other people's money, creative finance and so forth, the terms, the interest rate and so forth may be a little bit higher. Now, if you're buying that property all cash, then maybe. So it just depends on what resources you have to bring to the table. Me, personally speaking, I can only speak from my own experience. Getting started, I didn't have the capital. So I had to be creative. I had to use other people's money. And using other people's money comes with an interest rate. So that would eat away at the cash flow, but it was fine because I was able to improve the performance of the asset and acquire the asset using little to none of the own money that I had. So it all depends on the resources you have to bring to the table. But you have to be realistic. In other words, you gotta use logic. Like what my mentor said, it's all about the numbers. So if you happen to have $30,000, let's say you use our services, you use business credit to acquire it, then you have to make sure that you find a cash flowing deal that not only pays off that debt, pays off the expenses, add reserves, but give you cash flow as well. And you gotta be willing to be able to compromise. You know, not to stay on my soapbox, but I just want to explain this to you, right? Just to make sure you get it. And let's say you have $30,000 and you might have a single family in your portfolio right now. Great job. You did your homework, you bought a single family property in your backyard, at least 30 minutes to an hour drive from where you live currently. Then you're saying, you know what, I want to step it up. I want to do multifamily. And then you realize, you know what, I still don't have enough experience in the market. So my mortgage broker is telling me the max amount of units I can do is residential, which is a mortgage from 1 to 4 units. That's not bad. Again, I'm speaking from experience. When I first got started in real estate investing, my first deal was a duplex. I used FHA, I lived in 1 unit and rented out the other. My second property was a single family property. I bought 3 units my first year of investing. My next year, 0. Why? Because I bought it wrong. I didn't know about 100% financing. I didn't have Juan Pablo on YouTube provide me with this content, right? So I made a lot of mistakes with property management, using personal credit cards to finance deals, which is a no-no. So I made a lot of mistakes. Then my next year, I bought a 4 unit. By all means, guys, those 3 deals, a duplex, a single family, and a 4-plex are all considered residential mortgages. Okay? That was my first 3 years of investing. Then I was able to qualify for commercial mortgages and do 5 units and up. And that year, I closed 21 units that year. So sometimes, my friend, you might have to crawl before you can walk or before you can run and start just going hard, buying as many multi-units and multifamily properties as you can. However, don't be dismayed if you have to crawl a little bit. We all do. You got it? Because it's important to have experience, all right? So that's pretty much it. That's phase 3, guys. So I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of how to verify the rents and expenses. That's the topic for another video. We have resources. So if you're interested in learning more about multi-unit investing and how to finance a 1%, then check out the link below, because that's what we're all about at 100% Finance. We'll help you finance as well as find that cash flowing multi-unit property. All right, as always guys, this is to your success. Continue to earn passively and live passionately. Peace.